Alright, so now we're going to see how easy it is to get inputs from the keyboard and the mouse in Unity. So Unity runs all its inputs from an input manager, and it has a whole bunch of pre-written ready code for you. So to get to the input manager, you go File, Project Settings, Input, and here my input manager is come up. Okay, the one we're going to look at now is axes, right? I'm going here in axes, right? We got horizontal, that's your X, right? There's a bunch of settings in here, but right now we want to see the negative button and the positive button. So this is the left key and the right key arrows, the left and right arrows. And then we also have a vertical axis, and that would be a negative down arrow and positive up arrow. So you can reset these if you wanted, right? Lots of times you want to use WASD, you could put those in there instead. So they're already preset unless you change them. So let's see how we can use that in our scripting. Oh, where'd my thing go? Alright, so I found my script. So here we are, and I've commented out our transforms and our rotates for now and our scales. And we're going to use, input, capital I. And remember, this point I have been meaning to make before. The capitals is very, very important. If it's a capital or a little letter, it's going to make a big difference. You have a little update here, it won't work. A little I here, it won't work. And you see some of the keywords turn color as you get to them, but not all of them do. So you can't always tell if your capitals are wrong because of the color. So input dot get axis, both in capitals, and then we can name our axis. We can get the horizontal axis or we can get the vertical axis, and these numbers go from 1 to -1. So remember we did the positive and negative when we looked at those keys. So I wanted you to see what the numbers look like, so I put them inside a debug log, right? It's going to print out my words, input return value, and then we're going to see what gets returned from this little command here or statement. So let me clear my console and run what I've written there. Alright, so it's 0 right now. I'm not pressing any of the arrow keys, so my return value is 0. So as I hit the right, it goes up to 0, and I let go 1. I let go, it went back to 0. I hit it, and it goes up to 1, stays at 1 while it's being held. I let go, it goes back to 0. I hit the left, it goes to -1, goes up to negative or down to -1, and then stays at -1, and then I let it go. Alright. So that's what our return values are going to look like. So let's look, how can we use that in our code? I forgot to stop it. Okay, there, we stopped it. And we'll go back to our script. Okay, so how can I use that? So that value, I want it to actually use it to move, right? To move my object. And we know our move is our translate, transform, translate. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm just keeping all these examples on here. So I have them for now. So I want to change the X by that input value. So I'm going to put this, which gives me a value, right, in here for the value for the X, right? And what if I wanted a Y value? What would that do? Well, I don't want it to keep moving this one. I would do the same thing. So that was the X. What do you think the Y is? That should have the word vertical in here. And now what's saying is translate, remember, moves it a little bit by a little bit. Translate it by whatever the value is on when the buttons are right and left arrows are pressed, and then on the up and down, whenever the up and down arrows are pressed. So when it's not being pressed, it's going to be 0, right? So it's not going to change it at all because it's 0. And when it's pressed one way, it's going to be positive, so it's going to change a little bit. When it's the other way, it's going to be negative. So let me run that file, save, and run. And as I hit the arrows, oop, there it goes. And there it goes back. Alright, it's moving pretty fast. And I lost it completely. Alright, but because it's moving too fast. So how do we fix that? So let's go back to our input manager, which is in here, right? Alright, so let's get back our input manager back. So edit, project settings, input manager. And remember on the horizontal, here we are, and there's a sensitivity. So you can change that to, let's try 0.5. And I'm also going to change the vertical, 0.5. And then, I lost my manager again. I can just click here to get back to my inspector. Any one of the objects will get us showing us our inspector. And then if we want the manager back, project settings, input manager comes back, and then I can, close these up if we want. And then I can, if I want to get rid of that, I can click back over here to the object, and we'll see the object. All right. So if I run that again, and now see it runs much slower when I hit the arrows, and that's much nicer. So you can play around with that as you want. You could also put that input into different things. So you could put that also into, how could you put that into the rotation or the scale? You can play with that and the rotation and the scale and see what that does as well.